Welcome to People of Portland and Beyond, episode 43. Today in studio with me is Derrick Long. He is an introvert coach. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Pretty good.
Good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate being here.
Yeah. Doing anything special for Cinco de Mayo tomorrow?
No, I'm not. I'm actually a little bit under the weather. We were going to go out tomorrow, but, I figured it's better just to kind of lay low till I'm feeling a little bit better. So no plans for me this weekend. So, I'll just have to live vicariously through you, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm playing a gig over in Lake Oswego. First one being at El Jefe. Second,
oh, nice.
Yeah, it's going to be 3 hours from 12 to 3, and then another one 9 minutes away. I don't think there's any more than 2 Mexican restaurants in Lake Oswego, honestly. When I was looking at the map, actually, I was like, there's not much here at all.
You're probably right about that.
I was surprised that there was 2 at 9 minute vicinity.
Oh, man.
But that guy owns both of them, and I'm going to be playing at both of his restaurants.
2 Mexican restaurants and one guy owns both of them. Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. But that's going to be cool. It's going to be my first kind of classical guitar introduction. I bought it on Amazon a couple of days ago. So this thing back here, yeah.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on the gig, though. It's going to be awesome.
They're going to get a little mix of some Spanish songs, not much. But I told the guy that going in. He's like, okay, it's okay. I was like, I'm just going to do some finger picking in between. And he's like, okay, that works. Because, short notice booking, they're going to have to take it.
Hey, as long as you're upfront with them, that's all that matters.
Exactly. So. When did you start doing life coaching or the introvert success coach?
Man, I started my coaching business it's almost been 3 years now. I originally had a background in IT. Of course, I'd always been kind of looking to do my own things. I'm always an advocate of people kind of having a side hustle or doing something that they could just make money themselves without having to be dependent upon an employer.
Yeah.
And so just this lightning bolt hit me because I've always been interested in doing self-help, self-development, and helping people with their problems. And then just kind of hit me like a lightning bolt one day. It's like, hey, you know what? I could be a life coach and then I can actually get paid to help people. So I've been doing it for almost 3 years. Definitely love what I do. Love the fact that I get to help people and watch them achieve their dreams. So it's been an incredible journey for me.
Nice. Did you kind of train for that in any way?
I did. I've gone to 2 separate schools for it. I went to one school that would teach you strategic intervention life coach training.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just recently finished up another training so that I can get an International Coaching Federation certification. So yeah, I've actually gone to 2 different trainings, and like most other life coaches is we do keep up our training. So we do take additional training throughout the year and different things like that.
Nice. Where did you go to college?
I went to college at North Carolina State University.
Nice.
So I'm originally from the East Coast. So I'm a big Wolfpack fan. And I've been living out here in Portland since 2006, I believe. But yeah, so definitely a huge Wolfpack fan.
Why'd you end up moving out to Portland?
I like to say my wife tricked me. My wife, her family is from Oregon, and we're actually in an interracial marriage. And so my wife actually said, oh, we love black guys out here in Oregon. So packed up my stuff. Moved out here to Oregon, which is kind of a joke. I mean, yes, she did say that, but honestly, I've been living in North Carolina my whole life. Just really looking for something different. I've always been someone who just kind of does their own thing. So I decided, hey, you know what? Why not move to Oregon? So I packed up my stuff and drove on out here, and that's all she wrote.
So straight from NC to Oregon?
Yep, straight from NC to Oregon. I think it was like a November when I drove out here. So, of course, I stopped in Vegas, of course. Yeah. But, haven't lived anywhere else besides just North Carolina and Oregon.
Were you a Tar Heels fan growing up?
Oh, hell no. No. So the Tar Heels are definitely our rivals. So hate all things UNC. Sorry if there's any Carolina fans out there listening, but you guys suck. So whatever. No, despise the Tar Heels.
Are you more into college sports than professional sports?
You know what? I think I am because back in North Carolina, everyone is pretty much a college fan.
Yeah.
So we all have our favorite teams to root for.
Yeah,
but
there's no pro teams over there, is there?
Well, there are, but those teams didn't come later. So of course we have the Carolina Panthers.
Right.
We have the Carolina Hurricanes, which are they're in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Dude, they've just beat my team. I hate you guys.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, I'd say most people, especially people who are born and raised in North Carolina, were typically going to be more college fans just because growing up, I mean, I know that a lot of other North Carolinians will remember this, but a lot of times in your classroom in high school or middle school, if there was the conference tournament playing, the teachers would actually roll a TV into the classroom so we could watch the games. Like that's how big college sports are in North Carolina. But yeah, I love my pro teams as well, though.
Nice. Do you have like a specialty when you do the introvert coaching? Like, do you specialize in a certain type of individual or anything?
You know what? I don't. The reason for that is because I find that most introverts, and I'm an introvert myself, so that's kind of why I chose that niche. But I feel like most introverts tend to have the same type of problems.
Right.
One of the biggest problems is I tend to think that people underestimate us because introverts are typically a little more quiet. They may be more reserved. Obviously, they're not going to be the life of the party. So
they might not tell you what they're thinking at all.
Yeah, exactly. And another big thing that happens with introverts is there are times where introverts will try to speak up, but often the loud extroverts they're going to talk all over them. They're just going to ignore
especially if there's
what they
multiple
say.
people in the room.
Yes, absolutely. And so if there's multiple people in the room, what usually ends up happening is there's a phenomenon called groupthink that happens where basically the loudest and most dominant voice is going to take over the group. And then everyone just tends to go along with whatever that person's saying. So a lot of introverts just kind of feel left out or marginalized. So one of the things that I really help introverts do is I help them to kind of focus on their strengths instead of focusing on their weaknesses, which a weakness may be if you're in a loud group of people, how do I get these people to pay attention to me or notice me?
Has there a client that you've told those techniques to that has succeeded?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my clients, she'd been working in corporate America for a long time, and I knew she was smart. I knew she was talented, but like most introverts, she just kept being overlooked by her boss.
Yeah.
And so what typically happens with introverts is when you're younger, you're kind of just told, if you're nice, if you're smart, and you just keep your head down and you're working, then good things are going to happen. But then when you get to corporate America and you realize it doesn't happen that way, and now you're kind of stuck with, well, what do I do? I know I'm smart. I know I'm talented, but I'm still not rising through the ranks here. And so with one of my clients, one of the things that I really encouraged her to do was to just focus on an area of her work that she's really good at. And then I wanted her to become the subject matter expert in that one particular area. And what that does for people, once you become very knowledgeable about something, then your confidence tends to go up. And then once she had that confidence, that really gave her the ability to be able to speak up, especially as it pertained to that one subject matter. And because of that, she actually got another job offer with a consulting group with like a 20 or 30% increase in pay, just because she chose to focus on what she was skilled at versus trying to compare herself to someone else who maybe they have strengths in other areas that you don't have.
Yeah. And what do you love about life coach? I mean, being a coach the most?
Man, what I love about being a coach the most is I love when people tell me like their deepest, dreams that they wouldn't ever tell to anyone else.
Yeah.
Because you'll typically find, because that's another thing that introverts are very good at. Introverts are really exceptional in one-on-one conversations.
Yeah. I think they're more revealing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're holding it inside, maybe.
Yeah. And because introverts tend to hold so much inside, once we finally find someone who we can trust and someone who's willing to listen, it's like we're an open door at that point. I mean, we'll pretty much talk your head off.
Yeah, it's true.
So that's one of the things that I really love about being a coach is you get to hear people's deepest dreams. Like I was working with this one guy who's a civil engineer, and 3 or 4 sessions in, I could tell that he wasn't really being completely honest about the things that he wanted. And then finally, maybe about the 5th or 6th session in, he finally said, you know what, I really would love to be an actor.
Yeah.
And so I love when people feel like they can share those kind of things with me. And then I can help them achieve their dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the biggest challenge you helped one of your clients through so far since you've started coaching?
One of the biggest challenges that I have helped someone overcome. So there was this woman who, she's a mom, she's married. And one of her biggest challenges was that she opened up to me and said, and I know there's a lot of other women out here who feel this way, but maybe they're just not willing to admit it. She said, I have 2 kids and I love them.
Yeah.
But there are times where I'm tired of being a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of what was contributing to her feel that way is she felt like as a mother, she basically always had to put other people first, whether it was her husband or her kids. And one of the things that I told her is that if you're always putting other people first, what you're really doing is you're teaching them that you always come second. And so that's probably one of my proudest moments is when she started to realize that it's okay to put herself first sometimes, because when she puts herself first, she becomes a better mother. She becomes a better wife or a better partner. So it is okay, especially if you're a parent, sometimes you do have to put yourself first.
Yeah. You have to be selfish about things sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I saw this thing, I don't know if it was on Twitter or something, where someone was talking about happy wife, happy life, like husbands who follow that somehow have happier lives. And I'm sorry, but that's bullshit. Happy wife, happy life is the world's biggest lie.
Right.
And the reason why I say that is because if you're one of these guys who's been raised that your sole purpose in life is to make some woman happy,
right,
you're probably miserable. And more often than not, these guys who are spending all of their energy and effort trying to keep their spouse or partner happy, well, number one, you can't make someone else happy. Only they can. And so that's a really big misunderstanding that a lot of people have, is we always think we can make other people happy, and that's not the case. If that person's a miserable person,
and maybe you just interpret them that way, and that's the way you're always going to see them. You can't change them.
Exactly. You can't change other people, and what ends up happening is you expend all your time and energy trying to make someone else happy, and then you kind of put your own needs on the back burner, and
you lose yourself. You're not even a human being at that point.
Yes, you're lose yourself, and your sole purpose in life is, well, let's wake up and make this other person happy.
Yeah,
and
because I'm not going to be happy unless they're happy, because they're going to make my life hell.
Exactly. And so there's so many men and women, so I'm not going to just include it to just men, but women too, where they've been raised that their whole mission in life is to make someone else happy. And really the mission is you have to make yourself happy, and you being with someone else really should just be icing on the cake. Your whole mission should not be to make someone else happy.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. You got to do what you love.
Exactly.
What is the biggest obstacle you've overcome within your own life?
Man, I think one of the biggest obstacles that I've overcome is I was always one of those people who was afraid of what other people thought.
Yeah, me too.
And that's probably one of the biggest things that tends to hold people back.
Yeah. You can't modify what you like to please another person.
Yeah. So, I mean, there were times where, like, I think back to my college years. I was so one of these people that always thought you had to just follow by the rules and you always have to do things a certain way. And I look back on my college years and I was like, man, how much fun and just living did I miss out on just because I was really more concerned about what other people thought rather than what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like when you're modifying yourself for other people, you're losing out on the people that would have liked you if you didn't modify yourself, and those are your people.
Yeah, and I tell a lot of people who want to be entrepreneurs or business owners the same thing. If you spend all your time trying to make everyone happy, you're basically going to make no one happy.
And they'll see through it.
Yeah, they're going to see through it. If you're not being authentic and genuine and not being yourself, people are going to see through it. So that's one of the biggest challenges that we had. Like, for example, my wife and I, we got married at a clothing optional resort. And so that's something that I never would have even thought about doing, like in my 20s or something like that. But as you get older, you start to realize, you know what, I need to start doing things that make me happy and not care so much about what other people think.
Yeah.
So as I've gotten older, I've just taken on the mindset of, you know what, as long as what I'm doing isn't hurting anyone else and I enjoy it or me and my wife enjoy it, then who really cares what other people think?
Yeah, exactly. Especially in Portland.
Yeah,
very unique people in Portland. I'm just discussing Sauvie Island. It's a good nude beach. And then they got Everett Healing Center House, whatever. I always mess up the name. That's a clothing optional. It's a co-ed sauna. It's also nice. Then Portland, they're very open-minded over here. And, you know, there's a difference between sexuality and nudity. And I think Portland understands that, which is great.
Yeah, that's really one of the great things about Portland. Yeah, Everett, I think Everett House Healing Center or something like that.
Been there?
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
It's a great one.
Yeah, I've been there a few times. My wife sometimes will buy me like a little gift certificate or something to go.
Haven't been to Common Ground yet. Heard that one's good too.
Yeah, I haven't been there either. Sauvie Island, we've been a few times, although it's been
a few years for me.
Yeah, it's been a few years for us too. But yeah, usually we like to get out and just kind of spend like a Sunday or Saturday afternoon out there.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that it's no longer $7 a park. It's got to be more, 10 or 11 at this point.
I thought maybe the last time I went, it was maybe $8, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you're probably right. It
$10 now for the daily permit.
Oh, it is $10
Unless you want to go for the annual. If you know you're going to go at least 4 times, then you might want to get the annual.
Right.
Because then it's $30. It's a way better deal. You just got to go to like 7-Eleven to get it or something weird like that. I remember that.
Yeah. We'll usually print it off online like right before we drive out there. But yeah, I haven't been out there in a few years.
Right. Have you seen Infinity Endgame yet? I have not.
I have not. I know a few people who have, and so I just avoid those people like the plague.
Me too, dude. Actually, I was watching the Islander game the other day, and I was making sure to not even look in the chat window because I know there's trolls in there that were just willing to spoil it. And I think I saw something like a word from somebody, and I was like, and they might be talking about it. I don't know, because I got spoiled Star Wars that way.
Oh, really?
The 7th Star Wars movie, the worst spoiler you can get, basically. And I was just devastated. I was like, that can never happen again, you know?
Right. Yeah, I've been really careful. Like, I'll get on my phone and just kind of see, like, okay, Google, what's the news briefing for the day? And there's always something on there about Avengers, and I just have to like avoid it and just don't even look at it. So no, I haven't seen it yet, but
I don't know how I've avoided it this far, but I'm glad. I have to see it so quick though.
Yeah, I knew I wasn't going to go the opening weekend just because it's like, oh, you know what, I'm not going to fight the crowd. So Yeah, at some point I need to go see it though.
Yeah. How would you describe your approach to coaching?
My approach to coaching. So one of the things that I didn't like when I was looking for my own coach is people kept trying to get me to sign up for 6 months at a time.
Yeah.
Oh, don't sign up for anything less than 6 months. That's just, you're not going to see results if you don't sign up for anything less than 6 months. And me as a coach, I don't agree with that.
It's kind of like a gym.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of like a gym membership. And I don't believe in locking people down for 6 months. The most amount of time that I will sign someone up for is 3 months. And because I feel like if the person's really ready to make a change, 3 months is plenty of time. There have been some of my clients who have actually seen results in less than 6 weeks. And so the way that I coach is I tailor my coaching program so that you get the maximum amount of results in the fastest time possible. And so, I mean, I'm not gonna try to knock any of the other coaches out there that want you to sign up for 6 months. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
Sure, it's always nice to have a stable source of income for the next 6 months, but that's not the goal of coaching. It's like you said, that it almost becomes a gym membership at that point. The goal of coaching is to get you the results that you're looking for. And then hopefully you no longer need me after the fact. And if you do, okay, we can talk about it then. But I'm looking to try to get you the best results in the shortest amount of time possible. And I think that's how my coaching tends to differ from other people's coaching.
Are you fans of any self-help books in particular? Is there like a top 3 that you have or anything?
Ooh, top 3. One of the best ones out there, and I highly recommend this for any guy out there who considers himself to be a stereotypical nice guy. And for me, I read the book, and the book totally changed my life. The book is called No More Mr. Nice Guy. It's written by a therapist called Dr. Robert Glover. Definitely one of my top 3 books. And in it, he kind of goes into the history of how nice guys have basically been raised to seek approval from women their whole lives. And he also talks about how a lot of nice guys have what we call covert contracts with women. And so what that means is, let's say that there's a woman that you're really interested in and she needs help moving. And as a nice guy, you volunteer to help her move. And in the back of your mind, though, you've kind of written a secret contract with this woman that she knows nothing about. So that contract says, well, I'm going to do this nice thing for you. And then maybe you'll give me your number and then we'll go on a date. Or, it could be anything, like you maybe, I don't know, giving someone a ride somewhere. It could be anything like that.
Yeah.
And then when the other side of that contract doesn't play out in the manner that we want it to, then as a nice guy, you end up getting mad or frustrated and you wonder why. Man, why do women date all the jerks? I'm a nice guy. How come they won't date me?
Right.
And so that book, I think, should be just number 1 on any guy's list who considers himself a nice guy. Another book that was written specifically for introverts and people who want to understand them better is Susan Cain's book, Quiet. I think it's called The Power of Quiet in a World That Can't Stop Talking. So in it, she goes over a lot of the misconceptions that people have about introverts and really how introverts are overlooked by other people. Like, fun fact, companies that are actually led by introverted CEOs actually tend to outperform companies that are led by extroverted CEOs.
Nice.
So she tends to go into stuff like that. She also goes into the science behind why there's nothing wrong with being an introvert. And it's actually a gift. An introvert should look at it as a gift instead of a weakness.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. They're more introspective. So
Yeah, more introspective. We tend to live in our heads a lot, and therefore, oftentimes we're more creative. Not to say that introverts are always more creative than extroverts, but typically when you live in your head and you have alone time, like
you
you
can
can think,
enjoy spending time alone.
yeah, absolutely, you enjoy spending time alone, and it allows you to recharge
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. There's also, do you think introverts have more inner monologues in their head that's kind of harder to shut off?
I do. Me personally, like my inner dialogue never shuts up. Um, like most
Hard to go to sleep.
yeah,
Since I was younger, it's always been a trouble for me.
yeah,
Can't stop thinking.
we do. We live in our heads all the time, and in typical introvert fashion, we will replay something that happened like months or even years ago over and over and over. It's almost like one of those choose your own adventure books where you're trying to think like, okay, if I would have done this differently, then this would have ended up in a completely different situation. And so I'm definitely very guilty of that, like
Which
playing stuff in my head over
maybe
and over.
why introverts tend to like time travel.
Yes, because I mean, if you think about people like even I was listening to something about Steve Wozniak, one of the founders of Apple, and how he's
Yeah,
an introvert, and how he really talks about his alone time is really what led him to help develop the first personal computer. And if he didn't have that alone
that's
time,
funny.
it probably would have never happened.
As an introvert, you do your best thinking when you're alone. So.
Absolutely. I mean, shoot, even Superman has the Fortress of Solitude, right? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think introverts feel lonelier in a crowd than when they're actually alone?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Maybe because they're being ignored actively, and at least when they're alone, they don't have that problem.
That's a really good question, and I think it really depends on the crowd.
Yeah.
I think I would tend to agree with that, because especially if you're in a crowd of people where you don't know anyone, because as an introvert, when you get into a gathering where there's a big group of people, your energy level basically tends to start dropping
Yes.
pretty quickly. And especially if you're in a room where you don't really know anyone, yeah, I would say it's very possible to be in a big crowd of people and still feel lonely rather than just being in your house, because at least that's kind of an environment that you can control.
Yeah. I think it's probably important for them to have. I think more introverts are more controlling then. I mean, I've heard this. I've heard people tell me you're kind of controlling, and it's just something I don't intend. It just happens.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. There could be something to that, where sometimes when an introvert is in a group of people and we feel like we don't have control.
Yeah.
So when a situation arises where we finally feel like we can kind of take some control, maybe we tend to go overboard in that situation. You might be onto something. Because I mean, in general, if you feel like you have a lack of control in other areas of your life, like maybe your your work environment or things like that, then maybe you want to hold on to what little bit of control you do have in the areas where you can have the control.
Yeah, I think so. And do you think extroverts, they get high off the environment, and introverts are kind of like detract from that? And like, I want to get back home in my safe place.
I do think extroverts tend to basically, I mean, for lack of a better term, get high off of that environment. Especially, I find that when you're in a corporate environment where maybe you're having a big meeting and you're sitting there as an introvert and the meeting should have ended 10 minutes ago and the extroverts are still just kind of talking and filling the space with words. And so yeah, I'd say that because extroverts tend to think as they talk, where an introvert tends to think first then talk. So excuse me. So yeah, I could see extroverts kind of getting high and feeding off of that energy of other people talking.
the stimuli is too much for certain introverts too. If you're in like a high octane environment.
Oh, absolutely. And for most introverts, you typically would prefer to be in an environment like that when you have one or two close friends.
Yeah.
But being in an environment like that with a large group of people, maybe most of them are just acquaintances or things like that. Yes, your energy will definitely drain very quickly. Yeah, most introverts would honestly prefer to just be surrounded with a group of 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 close friends that they can have a deep conversation with, just because
they don't have the energy for anyone else.
Yeah, and to be honest, most stereotypical small talk tends to bores. It bores a lot of introverts.
The extroverts seem to relish it, but introverts want a deeper conversation.
Yeah, that whole kind of schmoozing thing. Like schmoozing, that's something that I'm not very good at.
Right.
However, if you get me in a one-on-one conversation with people, and I typically am going to look to take the conversation a little bit deeper than most, and that's really where introverts excel. It's one of the things that I'll tell companies sometimes too. It's like a lot of companies don't think that people who are introverts can be managers or leaders, and that's not true, because introverts excel in having one-to-one conversations with people.
They do.
So they're more likely. Yeah, absolutely. And they're more likely to be able to have a deeper connection with each employee rather than an extroverted boss might have. I mean, I'm not saying, I know it's a little stereotypical to say, but I mean, it is what it is.
I don't know if this is true, but when I worked at a bread factory, I felt like as an introvert, I was more business. I was like less about being social. Like I came up with these Excel charts to calculate the error percentage of the people that were loading the pallets and stuff. They were going in the warehouse and they were making errors all the time.
Right.
So I decided to focus on let's make less errors. And then I got yelled at because I could lose somebody their job. And I'm like, that's not, I don't care. That's not what I'm thinking about, like I'm thinking about doing a good job, making the company good. And like one of the boss, I guess not the main obvious president boss, but he's like, you're going to get people fired this way.
Isn't that stupid? Yeah. I mean, I once had a boss tell me, I don't socialize enough. Like what? What does that have to do? I mean,
yeah, that's messed up.
And it's that type of crap that introverts, I think, are just kind of tired of putting up with. Yeah. And I know I'm not the only one. I was speaking to one of my other friends, and she was almost in tears because her boss said, well, you don't really hang out with your other coworkers. You don't ever come to happy hour. You don't speak up in meetings. You just don't look like you're engaged. And for an introvert, if we're giving you our full and undivided attention and not interrupting you and talking over you, then to us, that's like the highest form of engagement. Like we're listening to you. Yeah. We're not trying to interrupt you. Whereas other people are just kind of interrupting you or just repeating the same shit you just said.
Yeah.
So I just really feel like introverts are just misunderstood. I mean, honestly, who cares if your employee doesn't walk around socializing all day? Like what does that have to do with their work or their quality of work?
Exactly. As long as you do your job.
Yeah.
That's what matters. It shouldn't matter at all. So you have a family?
Yes, I am married and I have 4 stepdaughters.
Okay.
Yeah, so no kids of my own, but I do have 4 older stepdaughters.
And how long were you in the relationship with your ex?
Let's see. I think we'd only dated for maybe 6 months before I proposed to her.
Really? You feel like you jumped the gun?
No, I don't feel like I've jumped the gun at all. I mean, we've been married now since 2007.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing I will say is when you get married to someone who has kids, it is definitely not like the Brady Bunch or, it is not all hunky-dory like they make it out to be on TV. And I know that I speak for a lot of step parents when I say this, but a lot of times as a step parent, you just feel like you're either a dick or a vagina with a wallet. So in other words, like you have all the financial responsibility of being a parent, but then you have none of the authority.
Yeah.
So it can definitely be a bit rough being a step parent, especially in my situation. I mean, I was, I think, 30 when I got married, and my oldest stepdaughter is only like 9 years younger than me. So obviously, when you're not in your step kids' lives when they're younger,
Yeah.
it just kind of takes on a different dynamic when you get into the relationship.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not this whole hunky dory or the Brady Bunch. We're one big happy unit kind of thing. So definitely some challenges that come along with being a step parent.
How many introverts are in the family?
Well, out of my 4 stepdaughters, one is an introvert.
Okay.
And unsurprisingly, that's the one that I typically tend to get along with the best
Right.
too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Did introverts tend to attract to each other, you think?
I think so.
But you also get attracted to extroverts too.
Yeah, I mean, I get attracted to extroverts too, but I think introverts just tend to notice, oh, this other person isn't talking a mile a minute either.
They've been through the same things I've been through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a little bit of a bonding thing that happens with other introverts just because
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think because after a while you just tend to notice, and most extroverts are cool too, but
you think more introverts tend to subconsciously just be a little bit more hostile to extroverts? I don't know why.
I don't know if it's on a subconscious level, but I can think of this one former coworker that I used to have that everybody else liked them and I just couldn't stand them.
Right.
Because they were always talking.
Flamboyant.
Yeah,
flashy.
just always talking, always has to be the center of attention.
Musicians like that are the kinds that I like the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause like this one guy, I mean, it didn't matter what the subject matter was. He always thought he knew the answer to everything.
Right.
Oh, if you're going to work out, you should, this is the routine you need to follow. Oh, no, you want to go out to eat? No, you don't want to go to that place. You need to go to this place. So this guy like always thought he had the answer to everything, was always talking nonstop. If you were in a meeting, that guy was just, every time it was his turn to talk, it was going to at least be like a 20-minute, I don't know,
before
like
you
he's
even get an
delivering
interjection
a thesis or something.
The way to stop him was to be rude.
Pretty much. Yeah. You pretty much have to be like, okay, well, it's time to move on. Let's kind of let somebody else talk here. So those are the type of people, the ones who just kind of talk nonstop.
Yeah.
Don't let you get a word in edgewise. Those are the people that I think I subconsciously just dislike.
Yeah.
And I think other introverts are that way too.
I agree. I feel like there's some YouTube personalities that I feel like I could tell that they're like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what the weird thing is? I'd be willing to bet you that some of those people are probably introverts.
Yeah.
And that's their only way of being able to get their message out because there's no one to basically talk all over them.
Yeah.
So I bet you'd be surprised. I bet you there's a lot of YouTube personalities that are probably really introverted.
I mean, Howard Stern's that way.
Yeah, a lot of actors and actresses are introverted. A lot of musicians and authors and things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely surprised to learn that
agree.
A lot of people who like Barack Obama, he's an introvert. Like, there's a lot of people out there who just would never.
Yeah. I used to think that actresses were more submissive and were more dominant and less submissive. But then I started to realize that's not true because they're taking orders from a director. They're actually more submissive than anyone, if you think about it.
That's true. That's a good point. Absolutely.
It's like they have the status and the money, so you kind of think that they have that's where it's at,
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily true.
Yeah, and a lot of stand-up comedians are like that too. Like people think that stand-up comedians are just always, obnoxious and just flamboyant.
Never embarrassed.
Right. But a lot of them are really quiet. And if you think about it, what really makes someone a great comedian is someone who can be introspective and kind of reflect on different things about life that other people just haven't thought about. So it actually makes sense.
Ari Shaffir, one of my favorite podcaster comedians.
Yeah.
You can hear him sometimes. He doesn't cut anything, which is pretty awesome, but you can hear him sometimes say like, oh, I don't feel like, there's like a bunch of people around. So I feel weird talking right now. So he'll kind of quiet down. It's like, once we get past the main part of the store, and he's like my favorite, man. So yeah, totally agree with that. Do you listen to any podcasts?
I used to listen to the Tim Ferriss podcast.
I know that guy.
Yeah. So I used to listen to his podcast. And then now what I find that I do is I like listening to just kind of random podcasts just to kind of, see whether I like it or not. And that's typically how I'll find podcasts now. So I used to listen to Tim Ferriss a lot, but then I kind of thought that, maybe I could take some of this time that I'm spending doing this and use it to kind of help me focus on growing my business, which is one of the things that I tend to talk to my clients about is how can we take the little bit of time that they do have and focus it on something that they actually want to accomplish. So I haven't been watching as much TV lately or listening to podcasts or playing video games and stuff like that. Like I used to. So I've been trying to take that energy and focus.
Yeah. And what do you like to post typically? Your Instagram third and long coaching.
Post all kinds of stuff. At first, I only wanted to tailor it to introverts and things like that. But I think at that point, so now I just kind of post whatever comes to mind, or if I see something that I think that my Instagram account pretty much reflects my personality. So I just kind of like to post anything that I think is interesting or, something that might actually appeal to other introverts.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you ever get clients through Instagram?
I have. I've actually gotten 2 or 3 clients through Instagram. So it's not like this big marketing tool or things like that. But I have gotten 2 or 3 clients. So I've had a few people reach out to me who either through Instagram or through Twitter, they went to my website, and then they reached out to me. So I have gotten 2 or 3 off of Instagram. And then other people just kind of will either reach out to me through a referral through someone else that I've already worked with, or they'll just kind of randomly find me on the internet.
Are you a fan of comics? Or where do you get all these comics that you find?
I get them from different places. Sometimes I'll just wake up first thing in the morning and then I'll just start just kind of browsing around, maybe see if I see something interesting, or if I'm feeling a certain way, like, okay, do I want to feel motivated today? And then I'll go look up something on motivation and then I'll just post it on Instagram.
Yeah. You guys into croquet?
No, that particular picture, one of my friends sent that to me because they were looking for a backyard play set. And of course, the second thing on there is like a butt plug. And they're like, wait a minute, man. I wasn't even looking for this. So
both horrible suggestions.
I know. Like, damn, Amazon.
Like, really? The algorithm would have improved by now. Had it for like 10 years, right?
Right.
Do you ever read any like comic books though? Actual comic books?
No, I was never a comic book fan growing up. Probably because my parents just didn't buy them for me.
Yeah. I don't know how comics are still in business, because everybody I ask, they're not into it. So who's buying them?
Yeah. Like I was as a kid, like the Sunday paper was definitely my thing.
Yeah.
I was a real big like Calvin and Hobbes.
Love fan. Calvin and Hobbes. Garfield. Garfield's a big introvert.
I was a really big Calvin and Hobbes fan. And
I don't even know good comics in this. Funny, but probably not. Charles Schultz isn't around anymore.
Yeah, true. I think
Peanuts
that's definitely
great.
Yeah.
Peanuts was the one I looked forward to the most, maybe. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I always used to look forward to like, their Christmas specials or their Halloween special.
Snoopy Come Home. Did you see that? It's like the saddest. Don't show that to your kids, honestly.
Yes. Yeah, and I still can identify with Charlie Brown not being able to kick that football, man. You always had that hope, like just one time he was going to get to kick that football.
Yeah, I put it as a song lyric for one of my songs one time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got to revive that song. Lucy pulled the football away, like that was the lyric. I was like, don't pull it away this time. I was like, something like that.
Right. Yeah, I almost kind of feel like that's a metaphor for like nice guys.
I do too.
Like,
I always felt that way.
Yeah, like
trying to trick me.
So trusting and like, okay, I know you screwed me over 100 times, but this time's going to be different.
I think a lot of introverts, something like terrible things happen to them. I don't know. When I was younger, I got screwed over by a girl in school. She acted like she wanted to date me, and then later on, it was a cruel trick that they had played.
Whoa, wow.
So that devastated me, and it pretty much made me a permanent introvert, I think, after that.
Yeah. And I could totally see something like that happen, especially because most of the things that we do as adults really stems back to things that happened when we were a kid. So for something like that to happen, or maybe, for example, you grow up with an alcoholic parent, and then when you become an adult, you now think that anyone who drinks is, a belligerent asshole or something like that. So there are so many things that tend to happen to us when we're younger that manifests itself when we become adults. So something like that. I remember, man, I don't know if this was middle school, but I remember all the girls in middle school ranked all the guys as far as their attractiveness level from 1 to 10.
Terrible.
And all my friends got like 8s and 9s. I remember I got a 7. And that probably scarred me until I went to college. Just because as an introvert, you take something like that, you internalize it, and now you play that negative message in your head over and over and over again. And then it just kind of knocks down your self-esteem until I got to college. And, college was a completely different ball game. And then you look back, it's like, man, why did I let those dumbass girls seriously mess with my self-esteem like that?
Exactly. I wish someone was there to tell me not to do that.
Right.
It's the trauma is bad. Like, it could be worse than getting in a fight, because I'll tell you a story that happened to me once in 7th grade. My Spanish teacher, the cool Spanish teacher, Doña Barbara, decided to have a Valentine's Day event, whatever. And like they were doing, I don't know how it works, but it's like you were suggested to match with another person in the class or something. And like someone called out Joe in his left hand, and I fucking ran out of the classroom. I ran out of the classroom. Oh man. I was like, how the and the reason I ran out was because the teacher actually laughed at the joke. Right. And that's what scarred me for life.
Right. Yeah. And there's stuff like that. And introverts, man, we internalize that stuff. Like, I think if you're an extrovert, maybe you just kind of get what you want to say out, and then maybe it's over and done with. But an introvert, we're going to live with that crap in our head for weeks, months, years.
Like, why didn't she punish that kid? That's all I was thinking. Right. Like, why would that woman, who's supposedly an authority figure, why would she not just like say, you got detention, you can't just yell at anything,
right. Right. Anything.
No retaliation. She just proved the point that introverts suck, is what I thought in my head.
Yeah, it does. And then also kind of circles back to one of the things in that book I was talking about, No More Mr. Nice Guy, how a lot of nice guys have felt like our needs go unmet during childhood. And so like at that moment, like you had a need for this woman to kind of stand up for you, and she didn't. And so that just kind of circumventing goes back to
my mom. Where was she growing up?
Yeah.
That's what happened there, I think.
Yeah. And so it's like and because of stuff like that happens, you are constantly then seeking the approval of women. Like you're trying to do something to make these people approve of you. And there's just always a losing game.
I think that happened to me. And it's like, I can't stay with one woman. I think I just want approval of all women or something. That's why I'm never comfortable with just one woman. Mm-hmm. Something weird going on with that.
Well, it's almost, and for other guys that I've worked with who've been in that situation, it's almost like a validation that I am good enough because I can go out and get these other women now. Like I don't have to just stick with you. I can go out and get these other women. So I do see that with guys sometimes where maybe they didn't have the most luck with women when they were younger.
Started late, so they got to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's exactly, I'm glad you used the term catch up because that's exactly what it is. A lot of guys are thinking, well, I didn't get to have any fun when I was younger, so I'm going to catch up now.
Basically all through high school and college, just like seeing what's going on. And yeah, exactly. And it's like, how can you just settle for a monogamous relationship at that point?
Right.
Especially if you missed out. You know, other people for a decade were doing what you were just at home playing a video game or watching TV or something.
Right. You make a good point.
Yeah. Speaking of which, do you play video games or watch TV at all?
I do. I don't get to play video games as much as I want.
Yeah.
But I do. I find myself, I will, excuse me, I will buy video games and then hold on to them for months before I even get a chance to play them.
Or I won't finish one forever. Like I haven't finished Red Dead 2. I haven't played it in a month or two.
Right.
Someone spoiled it for me. That was my fault. I listened to a spoiler cast about Red Dead Redemption 2. But I was like, he's probably not going to mention what happens at the end till like later on. Like 3 minutes in, he tells exactly what happens to the character that I'm playing. I'm like, oh man. I'm like, I don't think I need to play this that much anymore. Now that I know. And I was like, that's kind of messed up.
Yeah, I just bought the newest God of War.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great one.
Still haven't played it. It's still sitting in the wrapper. And the reason for it is because, especially like on the weekends, there are times where I would get up early Saturday or Sunday morning and I say, you know what? I'm going to spend today working on my coaching business. But then inevitably what would happen is I'd get down and I'm just going to play this video game for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then that 30 minutes is turned into 3 hours. So
yeah, that's the problem I don't have with video games. Is that a lot of people do have that. Like they get into it. But for whatever reason, when I play, I'm good for like a half hour. I have to force myself to keep playing. It's like, I don't know.
Man,
I'm a variety guy, I guess.
I wish I had that problem because I remember last weekend I started playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Nice.
And literally 6 hours. Like awesome. I'm sitting there playing. I'm like, okay, man, I gotta shower, do something here. Like this isn't healthy.
Yeah, I feel that way when I sleep too much. I'm like, I could have been productive. But sleeping's not that bad. It gets you healthy.
Yeah, and I have the exact opposite. Like I can't sleep in. I don't know what's wrong with me. I wish I could sleep too much, but even on the weekends, I'll typically get up at 7. For me, sleeping till 8 o'clock is sleeping in. So I don't know what's wrong with me.
I'll get up early too, and I want to sleep later. My body's like, nope, can't allow that.
I think as an entrepreneur or, someone who, I mean, you basically, I guess for lack of a better term, you kill what you eat, I guess, as an entrepreneur. Yeah. I think that you always think you're supposed to be doing something. Like you think that you're always supposed to be working on something or improving something or working on some aspect of your business. And sometimes you just forget that it is okay to just kind of relax for a day.
Yeah. Even while I'm like watching TV, I'll be doing work. Like Amazon, I'll be making like seed shipments and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just the way I work. I just need to multitask. I don't know why.
Yeah. And that's another thing that I tend to talk to my clients about is just being present in the moment. Because it's really difficult to do because I will sometimes work with a lot of people who they have trouble being present with
So
their
hard.
family or with their spouse or partner. And some of that, I think, is like you'll see people going on vacation and they're still working. And that's like the perfect example of you not being present in the moment. Like you're supposed to be on vacation, spending time with your loved ones or your family, but you're working. And so it's really difficult for people to do in this day and age. But I find that the people who are able to do it are much happier because then they feel like they're not missing out on something, because when they're spending time with their family, they're not thinking about work or some other thing. They are in that moment and present with their family.
Yeah. I have this problem whenever I go to see a comedian live. I can't sit there and just listen to the jokes. Like there's things going on around me. Like there's people around me. There's people serving drinks. I don't know why. I can't do it. Like I can be at home and listen to something and laugh, but I've done it. It's hard though for me to just be in the moment, one-on-one, no one else around, like tunnel vision, me and the comedian and listening to their jokes. Like, I don't know why. I'm always thinking about other things.
Yeah. And I think once again, it just goes back to the nature of being an introvert. It's just, we live in our heads. There's this whole fantasy world that plays in our heads. Like I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting in a meeting. During that meeting, I'm doing everything from fighting off ninjas in my head to scoring the game-winning touchdown in my head. So I think for introverts, we just have this whole
brain wander
fantasy world in our heads. And there's just so much going on up there. Sometimes it's hard to tune that out.
Yeah.
And to kind of pay attention to what's going on in front of you.
Yeah. That happens to me. I can't shut my brain off. And I'm like, I'm going to sit down. I've been excited to watch this Game of Thrones episodes. And then it's like, I haven't even paid attention. I'm like looking at the screen and I'm listening, but there's a completely different dialogue in my head going on.
Right.
For the past 10 minutes, people have been speaking on the screen, yet I'm thinking about completely other things in my mind, you know?
Yeah, I've always said, man, someone should make a television show about the stuff that goes on in an introvert's head. Like, I think people would really be surprised at just some of the crazy crap. Or, you know, we're replaying something that happened back in high school, you know, and that would be an interesting show.
Just
for me.
From the perspective of that one introvert, just like give a little voice in the back of his head, a narrator. That would be really good, man.
That would be cool. I think hopefully somebody out there is listening, out there in television world, and that needs to be an idea.
I mean, there's enough Netflix shows being produced right now.
Right.
There might be one in development. I mean, I think the closest we have now is like Atypical, but really that's about an autistic person.
Yeah.
And they don't show his inner thoughts. They do actually, but it's like a little bit extreme.
Right. Yeah, I think that'd be a great show. I mean, there's enough shows out there that something like that could be done.
Yeah, agreed. Well, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I've actually listened to your podcast before, and I'm definitely a huge fan. So I really appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Play a little outro song for people. I forgot to do one last time. That's the original song I have called Waiting, but I messed the whole thing up. So. And it's out of tune. But I'm going to be playing that finger picking style. So add me on Spotify, Joseph Addy, and you can see where I'm playing. Thank you, people of Portland and beyond, for listening. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.